Now, I've been doing YouTube for about 6 years, and I believe this is my 6th or 7th channel. Now, none of the other channels have done as well as this one. And last night, I did a video on evictions happening across America, and specifically Phoenix, Arizona. And I thought about it because I did a video many years ago on Phoenix, on residents being kicked out, having to move out their homes in Phoenix, Arizona, inside the metro area. And that was due to developers pushing people out of trailer parks, pushing people out of low-income homes to come in and build condos. Now, let's fast forward it a few years, and here we are. And my guess is many of those condos that were built in the footprints of where low-income people were living are now having evictions. So we've come full circle where people were being pushed out, new people were being bought in. Now, the new people can't afford to live there. Now, they're being pushed out. And what does that mean for a city, a community, a town? That's not good when you have 10%, a couple 100,000 people moving every few years. That's not good for business. That's not good for employers. And that's not good for your tax base. And I've got a feeling we're seeing that all across the U.S. Now, much of this is corporate greed, where these guys, they're trying to get every penny from you. They're trying to milk every single cent from each individual. And ultimately what's happening is, well, there's no more milk to give. There are no more pennies to steal. And what you wind up with are developers with empty buildings who then had their hands out expecting a government bailout. And that's where we're at in America, where the corporations, they'll take as much risk as they can to get as much money as they can. And when it all fails, then they turn to the government and ask for a bailout. And at the same time, they'll point at you and say it was your fault, that it was your fault that they failed. And that attitude and that behavior, that's not going to stop until something comes in between it and stops it. Now, we're going to get to a point in America where there are so many have-nots versus those who have that we're going to flip the table. And you're going to see the have-nots scurry around, believing that their gated communities are safe, that's going to prevent the little guy from getting in and getting his revenge. But I got news for him. It's not going to happen. The little guys in America, they're going to revolt. They're not going to keep working for pennies and spending every penny just to get by. There's going to be a breaking point, and we're almost there. Now, I'm seeing a ton of schools close, from elementary schools to colleges. They're closing up by the dozens all across the U.S. And that's not a growing economy. We need people who are going to be educated in order to compete with China and some of these other countries for the future. And if we're closing up schools, that's not a good sign. Now, we're short on teachers. We're short on school bus drivers. Nowhere in the education system is there good news. And again, if you don't educate the people, you're going to have more problems. You're going to have more crime. You're going to have people who don't eat right. You're going to have more of a population that's dependent on the government. And we're seeing corporate bankruptcies almost every day now. Bankruptcies all over the place. And many of these are retail and corporate bankruptcies. But we're seeing bankruptcies all the way down to the little guy. And I was just reading about a banquet hall that filed for bankruptcy. And this might seem like a small deal on the surface, but it turns out that dozens of people had their weddings booked at this banquet. And now the banquet hall is closed up. And many of these people are out of money. And now they've got to choose where they're going to hold their wedding or their wedding reception. So these bankruptcies, they might seem small. They might seem minute on the surface, but the wave effect and who it is affecting is widespread in many cases. And I've got a feeling it's only going to get worse. These news stories are becoming more and more frequent, and I don't see anything over the horizon that's going to change that. Now, Rite Aid has closed 520 stores here in the U.S. after filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And that's almost 25% of all of the stores that they once had opened. And after reading a few stories of this company still haggling with lenders, I've got a feeling they're going to have to close twice as many Rite Aids throughout the country before they can emerge from bankruptcy. Now, Burnett Plaza, the tallest building in Fort Worth, Texas, was foreclosed on in April, and it just sold for under $13 million. Now, just a few years ago, in 2021, this building was sold for $137 million. And folks, that's a difference of more than $120 million. And we're going to begin seeing figures like that all across the U.S. There's going to be a fire sale on commercial real estate. And in some cases, it might be cheaper for you to buy a building than buy a home. Now, if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.